Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Money Smart Kids. We are delighted to have you here this evening, and we welcome you. So come on in and have a seat and relax. I hope you had a wonderful Wednesday. It's really bright and kind of cold here in the Bay Area, but we're so happy that you could join us this evening so that we can all be independent parents and raise smart, healthy kids that won't come back to the bank of mom and dad every weekend. It's going to be so wonderful. I have 3 youngsters, and I have to tell you that my daughter, she makes motivational speeches to $100 bills. I mean, you will not have to worry about this girl. However, the boys are not quite as conscientious, but with a mother's heart, we always have hope. We're so happy to have you here. We have the amazing John Lanza, who's a great friend of mine, and his assistant. So it is going to be off the charts. We're going to honor your time with the best presentation ever. And we are just, again, so honored to have you here. So come on in and relax, and we are going to start momentarily. So we're going to, I just wanted to let you know that this is your time. We want you to use the chat, ask questions, go to the Q&A. We've got the experts here so that you, I always tell everybody you don't have to be an expert when you know one. So we got a kid financial expert here, and I'm telling you, he's going to leverage all of us. Let me introduce him. Not only is he a really good friend of mine, and he's been a friend of mine for a long time, he's the chief mammal at, he's the chief mammal, and his mission is to help parents raise money smart kids. John created the Art of Allowance project based on the Art of Allowance book and podcast for parents. The program features the award-winning money mammals who teach kids the fundamentals to share, save, and spend smart. You guys know I have a background as a comedian. That was a good one. And adolescents. For tweens and teens, John is an avid runner. He's a board game enthusiast, and he lives in Southern California with his wife and 2 brilliant teenage daughters. I'm very happy to welcome John Lanza here tonight to raise money smart kids. Take it away, John.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you. I have to go get a shave myself. That was, I love that. This is so exciting for me to be here with my friend Veronica and talking to all of you. And so just buckle in. I assume everybody can hear me, and hopefully you can see my slides here. And I just want to welcome you to the Art of Allowance Academy presented by Patelco Credit Union. Patelco is just an amazing organization building this community of parents like you, like all of us, interested in raising money smart kids. And, you know, I'm here to try to keep you really engaged in this process. And I want to also introduce Erin Prim, who is our kind of jackalope of all trades at Snigglezoo, the company that produces the Art of Allowance. This is our company. We like silly things like Snigglezoo. And Erin officially is our marketing manatee and client coordinator, but I will let her say hello to you.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here tonight.
And Erin is going to keep the Q&A and the chat kind of flowing. Feel free to throw questions in there. And Veronica and Erin will be looking through that. But it's really important that we get through all of the content within this hour that we've scheduled. And so we'll do our best to address questions throughout, but they may have to wait until after, and we will stay on as long as someone else is there to answer questions afterwards, because it's one of the most fun parts of any of these are the questions that you are going to have. So let's jump in here. I want to introduce you to the reason that this program exists. And it feels like I started coaching these girls. These are my two daughters, the yellow uniformed bookends to the girl in the middle. I felt like I started teaching them soccer, coaching them in soccer before they learned to walk. And I just love, I love the look of, that's my younger daughter on the right. I think I had her illegally playing there because we didn't have enough players. She was like 3 years old. And she's just all uniform. Like they're just a head, some hands, and then just all uniform. So anybody who has seen their kids play soccer at this level knows probably what I'm talking about. Well, I call them my Lanza ladies. And as you can see, they've grown up. And last year, they played soccer on the same team for the first time since that picture was taken. So my wife and I were really excited. It was like we were living the dream. We get to go to one game instead of multiple games. Again, any of you out there who have kids on sports teams understands that that truly is living the dream. But I want to take you back to when we had just the first of the Lanza ladies, and she's the one on the left in both those pictures. And my wife and I'm down here in Southern California. I know most of you are up there in Northern California, but my wife and I were driving to Big Bear, which is here in Southern California, just to get some R&R. And that one on the left was not yet 1 year old, but it's then that we began to talk about the need to raise our kids money smart. We saw how like friends and family members who didn't live frugally tended toward less positive outcomes. And my background was in kids entertainment. So I produced the Life with Louie show that starred Louie Anderson back in the 90s. Louie recently passed away, which is very sad. I also produced the pilot for the Disney show, The Proud Family, which has been recently rebooted. I have nothing to do with the reboot. It's an amazing program directed by and created by Bruce Smith. But I came from animation. I came from entertainment. So my immediate thought was, what if we could make money smart learning fun? And what if we could get kids excited about something other than just spending money? What a novel idea. And so we created the Money Mammals to get kids excited. And they have their mantra, which is we'll share and save and spend smart too. And at the end of this presentation, we're going to pop on over to a Patelco Art of Allowance Project website to show you how to access the Money Mammals movie, which I highly recommend you do. It'll put a smile on your face, but you'll also be able to access all the other great resources that we'll be talking about today too. Erin's going to drop a link in the chat to this resource as well, and you'll need to register for some of this premium content like the Money Mammals movie, but it's a fairly simple process. But in my journey in entertaining and educating kids and talking with parents, I realized, wait a second, it's the parents like us that need help. We need the confidence that we can be the guides to help our kids journey to money smarts. And that's why I wrote this book, The Art of Allowance, to help us. Erin's also going to drop a link. That link will get you access. You can get the digital version of this. And there's actually a very special giveaway that I don't know if you want to jump in here, Veronica, about this. But if you want, yeah, I'm going to give the floor to Veronica for a second.
Yes, because you have participated in this webinar, we will have a very special raffle at the end. And some of you lucky people will be able to have this book. So thank you for coming and stick around to the very end. You may be a winner. Well, you're already a winner, but you'll also have a John Lanza book with you. So,
all right,
thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Veronica. So I created this course that we're going to be going through tonight because I did not have a course like this. Just like that's why we created the Money Mammals. It's why we created the Art of Allowance. This is a course for parents like us who want to prepare our kids to become money smart and eventually money empowerment. And the way that I think of money empowerment, it's kind of the ability to use money as a tool, to be in control of money and not the other way around where it controls us. Now, I also know that we have families here of all different means. So please don't let the specific amounts that I discuss throw you off. If a certain amount is more than might be in your family budget, adjust it. This is much less about the specific dollar amounts than it is about the ideas. So you are either already on your journey and you're looking for pointers, and I think I'll be able to help you there today, or you're looking to start, and I will certainly be able to help you with that today. And our journeys are going to be very up and down ones. They fluctuate around this kind of baseline of money smarts as the child ages. So you can see the x-axis there is age, the y-axis is money behavior. So we're kind of going from cringy money behaviors to happy, really excited money behaviors, but it's going to go up and down. And what you really want is that they're trending towards this idea of money empowerment. That's fairly abstract. We are going to fill this in. We'll call that kind of the money empowerment line. Remember this graph. We will come back to it. So what is our journey today going to look like? Well, we are going to talk about why you need to raise money smart kids. We're living the age of self-sufficiency. We're going to talk about getting started early, 3 core skills and 3 jars. For parents of tweens and teens, I think you're going to find the material for the young folks foundational. And then I'll show you how the program grows to help your tweens and teens as well. We'll talk then about allowance and chores, understanding the connection and the purposes of them. We will then talk about the tweens and teens and growing your program with the breakthrough allowance. We'll talk about some useful tactics that you can use. And then finally, we'll talk about difficult conversations. So talking with your kids in financially stressful times. You're also going to want to stick around because we have a special giveaway that we will announce for you at the end, in addition to the books. Now, this giveaway, everybody's going to get. So I also want to stress that we're going to be talking about topics that relate to your personal finance. And I have to share my disclaimer. So here it goes. Please consult with a financial or investment professional before engaging in any decisions that might affect your own financial well-being. Guess where you can find financial professionals? That is right. Patelco has plenty of them. So what is this age of self-sufficiency? Well, it's why we need to raise money smart kids. We're living in this age. So what do I mean by that? Okay, well, when I went to college, so this was the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, credit card companies began descending on campuses. We were really the first generation of kids actively recruited to take on credit so young. And we all know where this has gone. And when I was a kid, it was like, oh, I can get a free pizza or a free t-shirt and get a credit card. It seems like free money. I remember the first computer I bought was entirely on a credit card. It was a $2,000 computer that ended up costing me around $3,000 once I paid off the interest. I did learn my lesson, but that was a hard lesson to learn. And here's the reality. My parents had no idea that they had to have a credit card conversation with me. This was new. And my dad was a banker. We're just in a different world now. Robinhood has made investing easy for kids. TikTok influencers provide good and bad information about money topics. And so in a world filled with information, good and bad, which is probably why you're here, it's really our responsibility as parents to help our kids understand the real world of money. And we can do this. That's really why I want to be here to help you. So there's this great term called future proofing. I spoke with child psychologist Robert Ryer on my Art of Allowance podcast, and he brought up this term, and it's exactly what we are trying to do in the age of self-sufficiency. In a constantly changing and interconnected world, there are unpredictable disruptions like the last 2 years, and COVID is unlikely to be the only one our kids are going to face. We need to future-proof them. Give them resilience. And by starting this process early, we can help our money smart kids become money smart adults. Now, maybe not this guy, Warren Buffett, but kids who are able to learn to use money as a tool to craft lives that they want, that is what we want to give to our kids. Because money may not buy happiness. We've all heard that. We've heard it sung in songs. We hear it all the time. But not having money can certainly make life potentially miserable. So now I want to take a breath and I want to hear from you. So Aaron is going to put up a poll And we are going to ask you this question. Were you raised with money smarts? And so there are 4 answers to the question. One is I learned money smarts at home. My parent or guardian taught me money smarts. I learned money smarts at school. Start filling this in, get right in there. And I learned money smarts at home and school. And then I did not learn money smarts at home or at school. I really want to see what our audience is like here today. So fill these in. Great. Oh, it looks like everybody's right in there. Good. I see. Yep. Not taught money smarts at home or school. That is not surprising. We have a fair amount of folks that were taught money smarts at home. That's terrific. I see. Yeah. It's interesting about the schools, especially here in California, there's no mandate at all. California is one of the worst states in terms of providing this. Although, from district to district, there are some mandates, but as a state, we do not have anything. So it's not surprising for anybody here who is Californian that they did not learn anything in school. And then we see a fair amount of folks at home, which is great. And then we see not taught, which is exactly why we are here. So this is great. Thank you very much for sharing that information. Now I have another question, and I want you to pop these questions, like just go into the chat and go at it. So how do you think your money education or lack of money education has impacted you? And maybe even tell us why that may be that's why you're here. So tell us a little bit about what that education that you got that you just answered in the poll. Lack of education impacted me by overspending. Tisha, I am right there with you. So I totally understand. Anybody else want to share here? And I know now this is a safe space. So I understand some of these things are going to bring up topics that are difficult for us to address. But you know what? In this process, it's okay, because this is one of the things we need to address. Debt, exactly. And I want my kids to learn money literacy earlier than I did. Terrific. I learned about money recklessly. This is thank you so much to all of you for sharing. I really appreciate it. I know it's not easy. Lack of financial education caused a huge delay in saving for my retirement. Thank you, Brooke. Never learned how to save, tend to be a hoarder. I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything that you're sharing here. So keep filling that in. Aaron's going to be kind of monitoring that. And we can come back and address some of these later, but I definitely want to continue. I'm going to, so thank you again for taking part in the poll and sharing this information. I can tell this is not surprising. Anything where Veronica is running it, you're going to get super engaged people. So this is, again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you're sharing with me, and we will try to address a lot of this as we move on. So let's talk about getting started early. We're going to talk about 3 core skills and 3 jars. So kids can already recognize hundreds of brands by the time they're toddlers. I'm sure anybody here who has kids totally gets this. Kids can't distinguish between advertising fact and fiction until they're roughly 8 years old. They can also pick out how brands can help them get ahead. So there was a study where they actually had some quotes from kids. So one kid was asked about Lego, and he said, "It's really fun. I have to have it. If I have it, everyone wants to come to my house and play. If you don't have it, then maybe they don't like you." That's like almost brings a tear to your eye. You're like, really? And then when asked about the popularity of another brand, one kid answered, "McDonald's has a playground, so you can play there and everyone likes you." So what's the point of this? They're already getting the consumption, the spend message. And we need to be there to help them understand other ways to use money as a tool, not just for brand status, not just a way to supposedly get friends, even though we know that's really not going to work in the long term. But that's why we're here. And guess what? By keeping everything simple, like we're going to talk about, we can adjust our own behaviors as parents. I mean, that's why I wanted you to share, because we need to get comfortable with some of the issues that we may have had, because we can be the guides for our kids. We are on this journey together with our kids. And I want to empower you to empower them. So I want to talk a little bit more about the why, because it is so, so, so important. So what we're here to do is to raise money smart kids. How we're going to do it is setting an allowance or not, assigning chores or not. And we'll talk about 3 jars and how they work and thinking through these choices. But it is the why, the center of this golden circle, that matters. This is the purpose. This is to raise kids who are comfortable using money as a tool to craft the lives they want. And even if you would disagree with aspects of the what and the how that we are going to discuss, I hope we can all agree on this why. And anybody who's read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, is familiar probably with this golden circle. And the why is the journey. I mean, our kids are living in the age of self-sufficiency. That is why we are doing this. So now let's jump to the how. What was the old way of thinking? Well, it was really to take control away from the kids. This idea of saving for a rainy day, way too abstract for a young kid, frankly, too abstract for a lot of us. Kids' brains are not developed. None of our brains are developed well enough to value the future. We need a lot of experience to be able to understand how to make our brains value the future. So saving for a rainy day is basically like taking money away from them. That's how they look at it. Then we have the piggy bank. So you might still have one of these. And piggy bank, the problem with the piggy bank is that it hides the money. It says, you cannot be trusted with money. Let's not discuss it. It helps foster the belief that talking about money is a taboo topic, something we shouldn't discuss. And then an allowance without a why, because that's what we do. That's what my parents did. Or that's not going to sustain an allowance. And that's why our allowance came and went. There was not a why, because my parents didn't know about the age of self-sufficiency at the time. So, it was just a different world. And now an allowance without a why is a handout. And nobody wants to just deal with a handout. That's not what we're trying to do. So what is the new way of thinking? Well, it's about control and giving our kids control. So we have 3 clear jars. This is a metaphor for the open conversation we want to start and continue with our kids. We want to punt the piggy bank. Have you ever tried to get money out of a piggy bank? It's actually difficult to do. Some of them are designed to be destroyed in order to get the money out of the piggy bank. That is way too violent. We are not going to promote violence on piggy banks as a way of teaching our kids about money. And finally, an allowance with a why. We want to tell our kids the purpose explicitly. I'm here to teach you to be money smart. This applies to young kids as well as tweens and teens. Yes, they may roll your eyes, but I know in talking to parents who have gone through this process, the kids are listening and watching. But we want to help them go through and learn from their own experiences. They're going to make mistakes. It's okay. How do we all learn? Through mistakes. But you are here to be their guide to help them through the process. So what are these kind of 3 core skills that I've talked about? Well, one is understanding the difference between needs and wants. So, we have the basic needs like food and clothing and shelter, and those are really important. But very often, what we're talking about is going to be stuff like what we call needlets. This is a new term we came up with to help you. And these are conditional, smaller, less consequential needs. So they're not necessary for survival, but they're needed to thrive in the moment. For example, you can't play soccer without a soccer ball. The soccer ball is a needlet. So that is the first skill. The next one is setting and saving for goals. This is a key life skill. And rather than rainy day, we're saving for things that they want. And we will explain how that will happen in the allowance process. And then finally, we want to teach them to make smart money choices. Using money is all about making choices. Save or spend, buy brand name or generic. We just want our kids to be mindful of the choices that they are making. And to those who might be thinking or say they don't want to spoil their kids' childhood by talking about money, here's the thing. And I have a feeling this is not a big deal here because you're all here. But if you aren't teaching them, someone or something else will, TikTok, YouTube. I want to help you instill your values on your kids and not someone or something else. So how do we do that? Allowance. Let's talk about allowance and chores, and let me help you understand that connection. So we're going to talk about how to set up an allowance. Then we'll talk about chores. And so the easiest way to set up an allowance, I'm going to talk about a 5-year-old, right? But this applies for a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, obviously. And 5 is a good time to start. Does not mean by any means that you are that you can't start later, but 5 is a good place to start. And we do $1 per week per age of your child. So $5 for a 5-year-old. We broke ours down like this. We put $1 in the share jar. That is for charitable giving. We put $1 into the save jar. And what you're kind of teaching your kids there is you pay yourself first. You know, every money expert talks about the importance of this. And then we take the $3 and put it into the spend smart jar. And that is money they can use at any time. Now, that breaks down into kind of 20%, 20%, and 60%. We really did it because we were lazy and just wanted to get the dollars out and make sure we can give them that money in those increments. You could break it down if you prefer a 10 and 80, 10, 10 process. And for those of you who know what that is, that's, 80% of the money is going to the spend smart, 10 to the share and 10 to the save. You can do that too. And then you have coins and you do some change and they're learning a little bit more about how to make change in the process, whatever you want to do. But the point here is that you break it up so they're making choices. They're learning that there are choices that to be made every time they get money. And if you have the wherewithal to give them enough, make sure they feel flush enough to be empowered with the money. But of course, if your economic situation is strained, adjust these numbers. And remember your why. An allowance is not a handout. And in fact, you can and should tell your kids this. I'm doing this to help you learn how to understand needs and wants, how to make smart money choices, and to save for goals. I'm here to help you when you need it. And it might also be useful to consider the advice from Kelsa Dickey, who's a money coach that I interviewed on my Art of Allowance podcast. Allowance is not really an extra line item if you do a budget, if it's not an extra line item there. It's a reallocation of money that you're probably already spending. It's money that's going from your pocket right into their hands. The difference is you're giving them control of the money. And when they have control, they are much more mindful about their decisions with it. And please don't over worry the mistakes. That is the point. We want to give them a control. And if it's within the family rules, if they want to purchase something, we want to default to allowing them to do so. Now, when you go to the store, they bring their money. This is where this really gets fun. At least I think this is fun. And at some point, you're going to encounter a situation like we did. So my daughter wanted a scooter. She didn't have enough money. This is where a tantrum might happen. You have to stay strong. But they learn very quickly that as long as you hold to your guns, they're going to have to learn. So I said, let's set a goal. When we got home, we set what we call a SMART goal. Now, some of you may be familiar with this acronym, SMART. It's a specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based goal. So how does that work? Well, she comes home and she puts this on her save jar and it says what the goal is. So it's specific, what she's saving for. It is measurable, how long it's going to, how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take. It's attainable. It's not going to take too long, especially for a younger kid. You don't want them to be saving for something that's too expensive. Excuse me. And then it is also relevant to them. It's their goal. And then it's time-based. It's going to take her 10 weeks. So you do the calculation, you work with them. And now she is saving for goal. Excuse me. I have something in my throat. I'm going to mute for a second. Okay, that should be better. And then they get to their goal. And it's really a powerful process and something they can learn. It's a life skill, and they learn about this idea of SMART goals. So let's talk about chores. Most parents don't pay for basic chores around the house. So these are jobs that kids must do as part of the family. I kind of call it rent. It's like clearing your table, making your bed, doing those things. And if you're going to pay for extra chores, that's great. but you don't want to tie your allowance to those basic chores because they can never opt out of it. So when they get to be older and they're making their own money, but they're still living there, they still have to do those chores. So they can't really opt out of those. So those are just things they should do as part of the family. But if you're going to be paying for extra chores, that is great, because then we understand the purpose of a chore, because the purpose of a chore is to teach kids that we often have to work hard in order to earn money, right? And so some examples of these above and beyond chores, they're going to be different for different families, but are, raking the leaves. So it might be cleaning a car, things you might pay someone else to do or something you might do yourself. And you can let them earn additional money through those chores. So to clarify the purposes, an allowance is a teaching tool to help kids learn to handle money, make smarter decisions, save for goals, and more. And the purpose of chores is to teach them that work is often required to earn money. And this is why it's a good idea to separate the two. So the other thing is, kids don't like doing chores, and there's naturally going to be some conflict. You didn't make your bed, so you're not getting your allowance. And what happens there is that, they can't, it's just leads to these really, it puts an angry rain cloud over this conversation that we're trying to have with them about money. Chores cause conflict. And we don't want that to get in the way of us having these important conversations with our kids. So I want to hear from you again, and I want to ask you, how do you plan to set up your allowance? So Erin is going to pop a poll in here, and she's going to give us a few different options for how you could set up your allowance. Do you want to set it up tied to chores? Are you going to set it up not tied to chores? Or are you going to do some kind of hybrid? And if you might share a little bit, I'm going to take a look at the chat now that we have a little pause here, and see if we have anything else that, let's take a look here. And the answer to, it looks like Erin's typing an answer to that. Yes. So it's $1 per year per week. Yeah. So a 7-year-old will get $7 per week. Yes. And then excellent here. Good, good, good. And let me take a look and see what's going on. Okay. We see a hybrid. Okay. Excellent. Allowance tied to chores. Allowance not tied to chores. And we got some kind of hybrid there. And this is something also, I mean, if you have any questions about this, you could toss them in the chat. We may or may not be able to get to them here. But if we don't, we certainly can discuss this afterwards. Let's see. Yep, help dad mow. Exactly. Taking care of just chickens. I like that. Great. And allowance for grandkids. Yep. Excellent. This is all good. And so this is good. We see a few people doing the allowance tied to. Now, the most important thing here is not that you don't necessarily tie it to chores. The most important thing is that you start an allowance. That's really important, because what you want to do from a young age is get them comfortable with the language of money, using money, just getting some comfort and understanding of how to use it as a tool. That's what matters the absolute most. So it looks like most people are going to be kind of doing that hybrid, which is probably going to be something where they're doing their basic chores, not getting paid for those, and then they're doing above and beyond chores to make extra money. That's a terrific way to go. Excellent. All right, so let's go back to this picture I showed you before. Thank you again for sharing. I appreciate it. It makes things much easier for us to see what you're thinking, if what we're doing is really making sense, and gives us a sense of what everybody's thinking in this, in the crowd, in our audience out there. So thank you again for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's look at this journey chart. So I'm going to show you some examples of how this might play out with your kids. And here it is. So first, they save for their first goal. Super exciting. This is the first thing they do, and you're all happy. And then they'll buy something that you think is junk. But here's the thing about this. We have to remember that it's our qualification on something about something being junk, because even if they use it for, say, a week or 2 weeks, and you feel like they may get so much value out of that and feel so empowered that they saved for that thing, that we have to be careful of being too judgmental about these things. Now, if they're buying a whole bunch of things that they're just buying and then not really using, that's a little different. But we have to be, we want to give them control. So even though I put this on the kind of, it's cringy from our standpoint, like we're like, but for them, it could be very empowering. They make a donation to charity from their share jar. You always have to be paying attention to that share jar because it's very easy to kind of forget about it, but there are always opportunities to donate, whether it's to charities that you're already donating to, whether the school is supporting something like folks in the Ukraine. There's always something that the kids can be using that share money for. Then they lose their wallet. These are things that are going to happen. That's part of the process. Just, take that breath, meditate on it for a second, and understand that it is all part of the process. We're going to get to one of the tactics, but they wait a week and they didn't buy something. That's wonderful. That's called the waiting period. We're going to talk about that very soon. They buy too many mocha lattichinos. That is not an actual thing, but you probably get the point. They start to develop some kind of coffee habit that could be problematic. Again, that's why we are giving them control and not going directly to our pocket and giving them money, because these are things they are going to learn from. If they start to spend all their money, they are going to run into problems. Those are problems that they have to solve. They make their first investment. That's exciting, right? So all these things are part of the money smart journey. Really, really enjoy the journey. So we've talked basically about the starter allowance, which is the 5-year-old getting $5. You can increase that as they get older, $6 and $7 and $8 per week. It's just a starter allowance to get them going on the process of becoming money smart. But there's going to come a time when you want to grow your program. And we call this the breakthrough allowance, where they break through from being these young school-age kids to tweens and teens. They're ready to move from the starter allowance to this, what we've been talking about as a breakthrough allowance. Now, they are going to have increased responsibility as they head towards adulthood. So we made it so that they had to buy now their own clothes. They had to pay for the extra money we were now being charged for their phones. They had to pay for their devices. They had to pay for food when they went out with friends. They had to pay for gifts for their friends. I love this one because they start to get really creative about how they're going to provide gifts to their friends. And that's the whole point here is for them to realize that there are going to be trade-offs as they go through this process. Now, they're going to have more money to manage. So we give it to them once a week. So it's like a paycheck. And we can change the frequency. We change this frequency to model the real world because we're getting them ready for the real world. So now you can also prepare them for the real world with a debit card and digital money. This is really important. Don't be scared of it. It is their world. This is all part of future-proofing our kids. So as they become tweens and teens, they can move from cash into debit. And that is something that is a part of the process that we have to get comfortable with as parents. Now, we've created this breakthrough allowance spreadsheet, and you will get access to this through the links that Erin is sharing and that you're going to get an email at the end. But this is just an example of how you calculate this spreadsheet to set up your allowance on a monthly basis. Now, our initial allowance was $130 a month. Now, that sounds like a lot of money, and we are fortunate to be able to give our kids that. But I want to caution you worrying about the total amount if you have the wherewithal to pay that amount, because remember, they're now doing all their own gifts, clothes, paying for their phone, when they're out with their friends. Those things add up. And if you, going back to what Kel Siddiqui had said, the money coach, you're probably going to be spending less money if you give them control of the money. And again, adjust the numbers if these do not work for your family. But the basic idea here is that now you're paying them on a monthly basis. So they have to actually now kind of budget it out for the month instead of now the week, moving from starter to much more like the real world. So I want to share with you a few tactics. These are tactics that you can use once you have your jars in place and you've got your allowance set up. So we have the first one is going to be incentivizing. Then we'll talk about the waiting period and unexpected rewards. So what is incentivizing? Well, in our case, we wanted our kids to read. So, we wanted to kind of help them get excited about books. So we told them that we would pay half of any book that they wanted to buy. Now, we also would talk to them, we would take them to the library as well. But by paying half of any book, you're doubling their purchasing power. And you can incentivize anything that you value. So this is something that can be used with the share jar. This can be used with the save jar. It can be used in lots of different ways. Then we have the waiting period. So I hinted at this in that journey chart. So when you start this breakthrough allowance with your tweens and teens, they're going to be getting more money. And that spend smart jar might start getting pretty filled. Also, when they start earning money if they have a job. So whereas the save jar is designed to save for longer term goals, the spend smart jar is not. So we want to teach them this tactic to help them avoid larger impulse purchases. So what we did is we said for any purchase over $50, they have to wait a week to buy it. So it just makes them a little more mindful of the process. And some parents will do this for, it'll be 2 weeks for $100 purchase. It's just about getting them to think on things before they spend. And in an Amazon world where there's just very little friction between us and our purchases, this is a really important tactic, not only for our kids, but it's frankly a tactic that I use now myself. I recently just bought a Bluetooth shower speaker. I thought about it for a week before I made that purchase because it's so easy to make these purchases. So just another example of how you can go on the journey together with your kids. And then you could try unexpected rewards. So why unexpected rewards? Well, research suggests that unexpected rewards can be very effective because they maintain intrinsic motivation, which is the inner drive for money smarts. We want our kids to want to become money smart because they realize it's good for them. So for example, if you see them exhibiting good money behaviors, you could treat them to a lunch with friends. Just as a way of saying, I see that you're being really good with your money. I want to do this for you. And if they saved up for a few goals and they've felt that empowering push when you visualize your goal, you can help them with some additional money to get closer to their goals. What you don't want to do is short circuit the intrinsic desire, that inner desire that they're building themselves through this empowering process. You don't want to do that. That's why you do it unexpectedly. If they expect it, then they start doing things for that reward. And that's not the purpose of the reward. What you're trying to do is show them that you're noticing that they're doing things for themselves that are good. And I'm sure you're going to develop your own tactics to work with and your own plan. So I want to talk a little bit about difficult conversations and talking with your kids in financially stressful times. So now, money is often associated with stress. It's often exacerbated by the lack of conversation that we're willing to have about money. And when we saw, again, it's really nice. And I realize it's not easy for everybody to share. And I appreciate everybody sharing, but we all have a little bit of money shame. And I just want to help you with some ideas to help you kind of talk about and deal with money during financially stressful times. We're all going to encounter this. And so anyone facing, say, a reduction in wages, we know this is a really difficult conversation to have with your kids, and you certainly want to make it age appropriate. But what I want to do is just share with you some piece of advice that I've gotten from talking to counselors and to other parents that can help us all kind of soldier through difficult times. So first, if you're laid off, you're working less hours, the kids know, or at least they sense that something is wrong. So it's really a good time to take that time and reassure and comfort them and stress to them that these types of things happen to the best of people, and together we will weather the storm. You also need to decide what to do about their allowances. So if you can continue to afford to pay them, fantastic. But if you can't, it's okay. You can talk to them about this too. For example, during the pandemic, We reduced our kids' allowances because they weren't going out with their friends. And that was okay. We had a conversation about it. That's one of the beauties of this whole process is you can sit down and have conversations about money. And then lastly, if you've experienced this wage reduction, remember, they're going to learn critical life lessons from us when this happens. Not just about money management, not just about the importance of savings and giving, but resilience, perseverance, resourcefulness. They're going to watch how we survive and then how we thrive and become better equipped for the challenges in their own futures. Yep, we're talking again about future proofing. And I can tell you, you can do this. And let's go back to where we began. The why of allowance. This is so, you can always come back to this. An allowance is a tool, again, to help our kids practice. And they can use that, learn to use money as a tool. Yep, they're going to make mistakes, but you know what? These are low stakes mistakes. And isn't that better than, for example, taking on student debt without an understanding of how money works? I mean, I want to give you an example. I was listening to a podcast called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Features a guy named Ramit Sethi. He has a book of the same name, which is terrific. But he was talking to a woman who was graduating from physical therapy school. And they at the end of physical therapy school, they give them the graduation certificate, and then they give them a envelope. They open the envelope and tells them how much debt they've accumulated over the course of their study. In this case, it was something like $174,000. And her job was only going to earn about $45,000 in her first year. Her life was changed forever. And I don't know her entire background, but having had a conversation about money or feeling more comfortable about having an open line of communication might have given her some perspective on how to go about and maybe rethink what she was doing. So that's what we're trying to do, is establish this open line of communication so your kids can ask you about money when they need to. And then look for serendipities or teaching moments or for these conversations. So when my daughter asked me about investing, I didn't let the fact that I'm not an expert investor or that I made plenty of investing mistakes, like I'm sure we all have, get in the way of an experience. You don't have to be an expert. In fact, sharing your mistakes can be illuminating. So we invested in 3 shares of a stock in my account. And this led to this awesome teaching moment because the stock happened to go up. And of course, she was like, can I sell it, make some money? And so we had a discussion about short-term and long-term capital gains taxes, the risk of holding on to stock, commission costs, because there's only 3 shares of stocks. Now, just imagine if she's learning those in school, or if I'm lecturing to her about it, she's not going to care about that. But with her own money on the line, she is all ears. So again, what? To teach our kids money smart skills. That's really what we're trying to do, right? How do we do it? Well, we set up a system using guidelines that we've discussed here: allowance, chores, the different tactics. But it's the why. Because you want your kids to become money empowered, to learn to use money as a tool that they control and not the other way around, in which money is control of them. So you know the what, you use your how, and that gets you to your why. And another way to think about why is financial freedom. We want our kids to discover the freedom to learn to use money as an empowering tool to craft the lives that they want to live. It's going to be different for every one of your kids. It's going to be different for every kid within your family. But doing something like this, starting a program like this, is the first step. This was our why. It's why we created the Money Mammals. It's why I wrote The Art of Allowance. And it's why I'm here tonight talking to you in this course that I did not have. And I really want to thank all of you for coming here tonight and for sharing. I want to thank Patelco Credit Union for making this class possible. But wait, we got lots still left here. We are going to send you an allowance launcher, which will help you get started with your program. So look for an email from us shortly to download this allowance launcher. And now I want to turn this over to Erin Prim, our marketing manatee and coordinator. And she is going to show you all about this information I talked about here on Patelco's Art of Allowance project site. Take it away, Erin. Let me stop sharing my screen.
All righty, and through the magic of Zoom, I will start sharing mine. Let's see. All righty, can everyone see my screen? Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Thanks for confirming, John. And thank you again for the intro. So I am very excited. Welcome again, everyone, to provide you with a brief tour. Let me be your tour guide for your 3-minute tour of the Art of Allowance project site created for you at Patelco Credit Union. So to access all of the Money Smart content contained within, simply type patelco.theartofallowance.com into either a desktop or mobile browser. Our site is fully mobile compatible for Money Smarts on the go. So from the homepage, you can then navigate to content for younger children, tweens and teens, and parents. So how about we dive right in and get started with the Money Mammals. So our Money Mammals program is going to include access to games, apps, picture books, printables, and videos that will help you and your family spread the Money Smart message. So speaking of videos, you and your child can access the full Money Mammals movie, Saving Money is Fun, that John mentioned earlier tonight. There it is right here. Scroll down so you can get a sneak peek of it. There we go. And as a quick note, since the video is considered premium content, you'll just need to quickly create an account and log in to watch it. So next up, leaving the Money Mammals in Coconut Valley behind, we will venture into Adolescence, which is going to be our new program just launched last year for tweens and teens. So here's a sneak peek of all of the content. It includes short videos, articles, and Instagram-worthy cards designed for tweens and teens to share on their social accounts. And last but not least, what I know you've all been waiting for, your Parents Portal. So you can access that by clicking on the pink for Parents link. And through this page, you are able to access the Allowance Kickstarter and Breakthrough Allowance spreadsheet that John spoke about earlier. Here they are, as well as the Art of Allowance book in its entirety, and the podcast as well. Highly recommend Kelsey's episode. It's one of my favorites. So again, just a quick account registration process will allow you to view this premium content. And the essays and podcasts that John mentioned this evening as well are available by interacting with what we at Sniggle Zoo lovingly refer to as our question answering machine. So a simple search by topic, age group, and content type will provide you with a variety of resources to help you on your Money Smart journey. So for a quick walkthrough of how our question answering machine works, let's say we want to learn a little bit about needs versus wants. So in terms of age groups, I have a toddler, John has teenagers. How about we meet in the middle and say school age? And let's say we're being adventurous, we want to read tonight. So the content will filter, and look, there is a picture that might seem quite familiar to you. It actually is also attached to John's short essay on needlets, which I know he addressed a little earlier. So many thanks for letting me be your Art of Allowance project tour guide. So I will stop sharing my screen now. And to wrap things up and begin our Q&A and talk about the giveaway, I will bring Veronica back. Oh, Veronica, I think you're on mute.
So the rookie mistake. What a wonderful presentation. I love the future proofing, because even as adults, we have to do that. And knowing the what, using the how, and thinking the why. OMG, that is so powerful. So we're going to have a random raffle, and there will be 10 great members who will be able, I will send you the art of allowance, but also take advantage of accessing the wonderful website that Erin told us about. I mean, that's the most comprehensive financial health tool that I've ever seen. And this is Financial Health or Financial Literacy Month. And what a miracle it would be if all of our children didn't have to struggle with money the way we have. I mean, most of us had to graduate from the school of hard knocks, but it's not necessary, right? I have a question here. I don't want my kiddos to have access to the money. I've saved for them an account, but I want my 13-year-old to begin using a debit card for accessing cash to put away for spending. Is there a way to prevent access to the savings and our money market account via debit? Well, there's no way, Ms. Cruz, that your son could actually have access to a debit card. So you would just have to supervise him with that. I would suggest you give it to him, but if you want to, you can also come and send me an email offline, and we can talk more about exact details on how to do that. So thank you for that amazing question. Any more questions? I see we got a lot of really good feedback.
Oh, Veronica, I have all my questions lined up for John right now.
Okay, go for it, girl.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so John, first one up, the Cruz family asked, and I think this is a really important one too. Can you clarify what is Money Smarts?
Yeah, Money Smarts that's a really good question. It is the idea that you learn these basic skills and then you add on to those basic skills. So in the beginning, Money Smarts is teaching them about setting and saving for goals, distinguishing between needs and wants, making choices, and learning how to use money. So that's really what we're trying to do, is move from Money Smart. So teaching them things like, and as they get older, and someone brought this up, you can add, someone asked, I think it was Leilani, she had asked about investing. You can add like a grow jar and put some money into that grow jar. So that could be, you can do it from the save jar, or you could do a kind of grow jar, but you tack on these things to your program. So the waiting period is part of Money Smarts, right? That's a tactic that will help. You can also do things like provide them enhanced interest so that they understand that when they save money for a period of time, they might make more money on it. You can do that also in Patelco accounts. So there's a lot. So that's the idea behind the Money Smarts, is all the things we talked about today are part of the Money Smart journey. Does that answer the question well enough? If you have any follow-up questions, please let me know.
All righty, John. So I've got a couple of other ones that kind of go together because they're about grandchildren. Mm-hmm. So Leilani actually asked, how can I influence my grandkids? They're 2 and 6, and they're actually going to be moving away soon.
Oh, man. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Leilani. And the first question there is how in sync are the questions, because if you're in sync with the parents, it's different than if you're not in sync. So one thing I will say, like with my mom, we told her about our program, and we did, and she would send, when she would send money, she would send like $15, and she'd be like, it would be allocated. So there would be a sticky note on each of the $5 bills. This is for your share jar. This is for your save jar. This is for your spend smart jar. So that's just kind of reiterating that. And the other thing that we did with other other family members is as they got older, we also directed them to say 529 accounts, just again, this is all part of the money smarts. But if they're connected, if you're in sync with the parents, that's one technique you can use. If you're not in sync, then I really would suggest that you try to get them, show them this website, give them these kind of tools to realize, because a lot of parents, 100% of parents that I talk to, and I'm sure this is the case with this group here, answer yes to the question, do you want to raise money smart kids? And one of the goals for a course like this is for me and Veronica and Erin here to help empower you to feel like you can be the guides in that journey. And so I would say as a grandparent, it's make them aware of these type of resources, and maybe they can find one of these classes. And but I would like to know more, if you want to share, about whether you're in sync, or what are there issues that you're trying to overcome, because I might be able to provide a more specific answer.
Yeah, so speaking of issues, John, that was actually Jeff's question. He said, how can I get the parents of my grandkids on board with a program like this?
Yeah, I really do think the key thing is what we've done with the Art of Allowance is set it up so that it's a framework. So we're not preaching to you, like, for example, even though I told you that I think it's best not to tie chores and allowance together, I also said, if you're not comfortable with it and you want to tie allowance and chores together, you can do that, because what's most important is that you're providing them money to practice with, right? And so what we want to do is break down all those barriers, make money an open conversation. It's very hard to answer this particular question so what actually would be the easiest, I'll just share my email address. And if I haven't answered the question in a way that's useful and you want to share a little bit more information, it's really going to be very specific to each family on this, particularly if you're talking about grandparents talking to parents. So please, I'm going to put that in here. You're more than welcome to email me. And with specifics on the question, because it's just like, I interviewed this guy, Brad Klontz, who's a money expert, and he said something which I always think about, which is you really have to take all personal advice with a grain of salt. And so that's why with these specific questions, without knowing all the particulars, it's hard to give a very specific answer, because we need to know, are you in sync? Are you not in sync? But I can definitely help you if we can dig in. Like I said, please, just ping me. I'd love to talk more about it if you did not feel like I gave you enough information there. What's next on our list here, Erin? I see Erin may have frozen. So I'm looking at a few of these questions here. I see Todd, how do you recommend the use of gift cards given by relatives? I think with gift cards that you just let the kids use the gift card. That's the easiest thing to do, right? So I would say that's probably the best way to do it. And if there's a follow-up question to that, that'd be fine. But I think that's okay. It's ostensibly that's given to them for a birthday or for Christmas, and I think that's their gift to use. With younger kids, when they get something like cash, you're perfectly fine to say, if they get like $20 or $10, you can take half of it and put it into an account that you're going to give to them later, and then take the $5 and make that part of your allowance, right?
John, do you have resources for teachers?
Yeah, so on that Art of Allowance page there, we do have resources for teachers for the young school age kids. So we have I've written 3 kids books that all tie to the share and the save and the spend smart. And there are reading guides to all those books, and the digital books are there on the site. So if you go to the teachers section, you'll see that. And then we also have tied to the movie, we have a teaching guide. It's about 60 pages of lessons you can use with the video that's there in the classroom. And those are appropriate for kids all the way up to say about 3rd grade.
Perfect.
Yeah. Katrina, congratulations. I see Betty here. My daughter is 16 and started working recently. Great. Congratulations, Betty. The money she saved in her account, would that affect her financial aid application for college? I am not an expert on financial aid, so I don't want to answer that question. I have gone through the process with my 18-year-old, but I don't want to give you the incorrect information on that. So you're better off in that case, reaching out to one of the Patelco experts here. I don't know if Kara or Veronica, you want to weigh in on that one as well.
Actually, I don't have that information right now, but we can look
Yeah.
it up for you
Yeah.
and get back with you.
Yeah. Great question.
So it is 6:34. Katrina, Steve's been my email. I was going to mail the all the people who won the books. I'm going to have to physically mail them, or you can go to your most recent your Patelco office or branch if you don't want to have me if you don't want to share your address with me. But I just want to thank John so much for this really enlightening evening, and Erin, although she had to go. And we're going to be having our next webinar on the economy and what's going on in it. It's going to be very interesting and high level for all of you. So I will send you the information. And Marquita, I've got a few people that I'm going to won, and I'm not going to announce them right now, but you will be being contacted by me if you are a lucky winner. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. And make sure that you're taking care of your financial health and taking care of your beautiful, wonderful selves. We appreciate you here at Patelco and cannot wait to see you again. So thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all. This was great.
Getting some great feedback there, John.
Well,
Good night,
thank you,
Erin.
Veronica. Yeah, thanks for everybody.
Thanks. I made it back just to say goodnight.
We persevered, Erin. I think we made you proud with getting all the questions answered.
All right, then. Thank you, guys.
And then remember, like I said, if anybody wants to email me, I drop my email. It's john@snigglezoo.com. Email me with your questions and I'd love to answer them.
All right. See you guys later. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Veronica. You're the best.
Thank you.